And when Bob stopped by to get me, she scratched him.
Those scratches, Miss Cordell, were inflicted within a minute or two of his death.
Well, then it probably happened during the struggle.
Right. What puzzles me, though, is that why a man should have such long fingernails. Here they come.
The moment he mentioned the scratches, I knew I was going to do it. I suppose I'd really known it all along. And maybe it wasn't so unforgivable after all. The thing to do was pick a man who was obviously a criminal, obviously an enemy of society. Why, I might even be doing society a favor.
All right, now pipe down.
Inspector.
Yes?
Number 8. Could he say something?
Number 8?
Me?
Yeah, you. Step forward to the white line. Now read that blackboard the sergeant's holding.
This is a stick-up. Don't try any tricks. You, mister, get out.
Yes, that's him. That's him. That's the man who murdered Bob! I slept remarkably well the night after I'd accused this man I'd never seen before, of the murder which I had committed. I had expected a certain feeling of guilt, and yet I walked away from that show-up room conscious of nothing but relief. It wasn't until the day of the preliminary hearing that the reaction set in. Mostly it was the way he looked at me, the man I was charging with my crime, the way he looked when I raised my right hand and swore that I was telling the truth, the way he looked when I told my story. Those eyes seemed to mock every word I said. I was almost glad when the moment came for him to take the stand.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Well, young man?
I solemnly swear.
Silence. Walter Haney, you have heard the testimony given here against you. What have you to say on your own behalf?
What difference does it make if you believe her?
Is that all you have to say at this time?
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Then I have no alternative but to order you held on a charge of murder in the first degree.
No!
This court stands adjourned.
The woman who cried out was sitting alone far back in the courtroom. I realized now that I'd been aware of her all the time. I'd been watching her even. Why? There was nothing different about her except, well, a sort of tension. Otherwise, she might have been just another of those plain, nondescript graying women who seemed drawn to courtrooms by nothing more than morbid curiosity. But that cry of hers, I couldn't get it out of my mind. By 10 o'clock that night, I was feeling so jittery that I practically jumped when the doorbell rang. Even before I opened the door, I knew who it was going to be.
May I come in?
Who are you?
Don't you really know?
Only that you're the woman who... Well, in court this afternoon, you... Yes, come in. Would you like to have me take your hat and coat?
Don't bother.
Will you sit down?
Thank you.
Who are you, anyway?
What if I were to tell you that I'm his mother?
Whose mother?
Please, Miss Cordell.
Why did you come here?
Put yourself in my place. Would you sit in your room and try not to think? Or would you seek out the person who...
Who what?
This afternoon in court, you were so positive. Yes, you said. Yes, that's the man, so help you God.
Why shouldn't I be positive?
When the police first asked you for a description, you weren't positive. You could only give the haziest description.
Well, that often happens. Ask the police. The moment I saw him, I knew instantly...
Yes, instantly. One man out of many men. And you knew instantly. How?
Because of that... Well, that look of his. Those eyes of his. In addition to everything else.
You're the only witness there is against him, Miss Cordell.
I'm sure the jury will consider that.
No. Not if you're so positive. A young woman of good family, good friends, good reputation. And he can't establish an alibi.
Is that my fault? How can you be so positive that he isn't guilty? You have no right to come here and...
I'll go now. It'd be a terrible thing, Miss Cordell, to realize afterwards that you might have made a mistake. Even might have made a mistake. Wouldn't it?
I dreamt that night that I was at Lookout Point again, and everything repeated itself, just as it had happened that night, except for one thing. Just as I pulled the trigger, I caught sight of somebody watching. It was the woman, and she looked at me sadly and said, "And for this they'll execute my son." I went to the office the next morning, thinking it would be best to keep busy. But no matter what my hands might be doing or my lips might be saying, she was still in my thoughts. At last noon came, and I started out for lunch. But that isn't where I ended up.
Miss Cordell, come in.
I merely wanted to ask you, Inspector.
Yes?
I've been thinking of going away, out of town. Would that be all right?
Just so you let us know where you are and come back for the trial.
Oh, thank you.
Rather sudden decision, isn't
Well,
it?
I haven't been feeling well, so I thought if I could get away for a while.
Here I'd been thinking that you were holding up so remarkably under the circumstances.
What circumstances?
Well, after all, when a woman loses the man she loves, especially the way you did, then, too, I know it isn't easy to have to sign a death warrant.
Did you have to say that?
All I'm trying to do, Miss Cordell, is explain to you that I understand what you're going through.
Inspector, this man...
Walter Haney?
I know that under the law, his previous record of crime can't be introduced into this case. But he does have a record, doesn't he?
Make you feel any better if he did?
What do you mean? Feel any better?
You've got it bad, haven't you? Usually this doesn't happen until afterwards, when the prisoner keeps denying right up to the end that he did it. And, well, there's still time.
Time for what?
Well, find the gun, let's say. I know how that'd make you feel, even though you're as positive in your accusation as if your own life depended on it.
I couldn't get away from there fast enough. I couldn't get out of town fast enough. I had to put everything behind me, far, far behind me, until I could get hold of myself again, until I could see things again as I'd seen them once before. 50 miles, and I was able to relax my grip on the steering wheel. 100 miles, and I was wondering whatever had come over me to make me act like that. Nothing had really happened. Nothing had really changed. I was still safe, and I would always be safe, unless I gave myself away. Why, this man, this Walter Haney, he didn't even have an alibi. He'd be convicted, and that would be the end of it. Except for that woman, of course. Well, I felt sorry for her. But I felt sorrier for myself. She shouldn't have had such a son. Oh, I was so sure of myself again. But not for long. For everywhere I went in the days that followed, I kept seeing that woman's face. At first, I thought it was an illusion. But no, I saw her. She even touched me while I was shopping in a department store.